Really exciting news from Biden world. Biden's former White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, has a brand new book out. And here she is discussing it.
Hi, I'm Karine Jean-Pierre, and I am the author of a new book that's coming out this fall called Independent. It's coming out on October 21st, so please do grab it. And the reason I wrote this book, coming out of the White House, you know, serving as White House press secretary was an honor and a privilege. But since I have left, the people that come up to me, strangers that come up to me just across the country as I'm traveling, and sometimes right in my neighborhood, at a grocery store, supermarket, airport, my daughter's school, the number one question they ask me is, Karine, how do we get out of this? How do we protect our democracy?
Is that really the number one question that she's being asked? I would ask, like, how did you get up there every day for, you know, years and years and years and cover up for Joe Biden, cover up his cognitive decline, cover up the fact that he was fueling Israeli mass murder in Gaza? How could you do that? And I don't want to hear your opinions about how we get out of this. I want to know how you managed to convince yourself that you could do that, lie on behalf of Joe Biden.
Well, she did it the same way she convinced herself that she wrote a book, which I promise you she did not write. Most of these people do not write their book. They made a big deal. Obama wrote Dreams of My Father. I don't even think he did. Most of these books have a ghostwriter. In fact, I know people personally who get some of these ghostwriters that do politicians' books. And I'm like, why are you putting a book out? And I don't know. Everybody's got to write a Mein Kampf.
Well, the big thing that she's doing now, after covering up for Joe Biden's cognitive decline, insisting that everything was fine with him, is now she's declaring herself to be an independent. So she's no longer with the Democratic Party, I guess, and she's trying to adopt a new brand. And that's understandable, given that how badly damaged the Democratic brand was by them covering up for Joe Biden's cognitive decline. But let's hear more of her
pivot
announcement.
How do we protect vulnerable communities among us? What do we do next? Because we don't have answers here. That's what they ask me. And this is my answer. And what I mean by that is, in an era of misinformation, disinformation, the regressiveness of social policy, what we're seeing currently right now, what I have decided to do, and I really have thought long and hard about this, is to follow my own compass. And that's what I've done. And that's what this book does. And here's the truth. And here's how I will lay it out to you. I think we need to stop thinking in boxes and think outside of our boxes and not be so partisan. And the way that I see moving forward in this space that we're in right now is, if you are willing to stand side by side with me, regardless of your how you identify politically, and as long as you respect the community that I belong to and vulnerable communities that I respect, I will be there with you. I will move forward with you. And that is, I think, so important. So this book, Independent, it's about looking outside of boxes, not just always being in a partisan stance.
So, you know, one of the
she's not lesbian anymore. That's what she meant. Looking outside the boxes.
One of the biggest partisan spin doctors who covered up for Joe Biden is now asking us to think outside the box, not be so partisan, and be an independent. It speaks to how badly Joe Biden has damaged that brand, that Karine Jean-Pierre feels the need to now paint herself as an independent. Here's current affairs. Karine Jean-Pierre spent years spewing empty platitudes to defend war crimes, border cruelty, and Biden's obvious decline. Now she's cashing in with a book pretending to speak truth to power. That's exactly right. In the book, asks LEA on Twitter, does she talk about how she covered up Biden's decline and lied to the American people?
No, that's Tapper's book.
Here's journalist Alex Thompson. Karine Jean-Pierre's colleagues had thoughts about her and her book. One of the most ineffectual and unprepared people I've ever worked with. The amount of time that was spent coddling her was astronomical compared to our attention on actual matters of substance. Look, it is true that when I would watch her press briefings, she had a very hard time looking up at the at the press that she was lying to, which said to me that she was uncomfortable with her job. And fair enough, because you have to cover up for Joe Biden. But now I think she's trying to distance herself from everything she was involved in, understandably, because Biden's cognitive decline now is impossible to conceal.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how they did it back then, unless people wanted to not see it, but it was kind of unmistakable. What I love is the expose. Like, did you know he wasn't all there the whole time? Oh, you don't say.
Here is Tim Wu, who he's certainly a Democratic supporter. I believe he even had a position inside the White House. He says, from the White House policy staff perspective, the real problem with Karine Jean-Pierre was that she was kind of dumb. No interest in understanding harder topics. Just gave random, incoherent answers on policy. But she was the first Black lesbian press secretary, and that is what we have been told is important by Democrats for years. Her legacy is laundering and genocide for Biden. Biden belongs at The Hague. Karine Jean-Pierre belongs at The Hague for being his genocidal mouthpiece. The whole administration belongs at The Hague. So does the Trump gang, bipartisan war criminals, and F her blood-stained book. So yeah, some people are just not convinced with this rebranding exercise, especially after she spent years covering up for Biden, who enabled a genocide in Gaza.
Is that the whole town's job, is to cover up for whoever's in at the moment? And then if you can, you're like the guy from Media Matters, you can pivot and like, I love the Clintons now. That's how it's done, right?
That is exactly how it's done.
Come see us on tour in Glasgow, Manchester, Belfast, Dublin, Liverpool, Birmingham, and London. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.